Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
Wednesday episode is going to start with an apology. A heartfelt apology. Some
Are you serious?
Yeah, some probably think that I was manipulative, that I was vindictive, that I did this on purpose, that there was malicious intent behind my actions.
There was hate in your
That's
heart.
not the case. That's simply not the case. On the Monday episode, if you missed it, it was a loaded episode. It's a Joe episode. We've got a 4-piece going. We had a long list of topics, and it was meant to be a compliment. It was meant to be a compliment. We had a whole segment carved out to talk about how great Clay Holmes has been this year. He had a 0 ERA when we completed the show on Monday. And I said something to the effect of, we're kind of already at 2 hours. Let's just, it's not like he didn't break a record. Like, we didn't have to talk about him on Monday. I kind of just wanted to acknowledge him.
Backburnered him.
So I was like, let's just push that to the next episode. And then that night, he proceeded to give up 4 earned runs and blew the save to the Seattle Mariners. So I apologize, Yankee fans who listen to Baseball is Dead. I know that a bunch of you do. Maybe you don't want to admit that. You're like, oh, like I feel kind of dirty listening to a Jared Carrabis podcast. But like, hey, listen, we cover them Yankees. We cover them unbiased. And I think that this kind of proves it, that I'm giving a heartfelt apology. Like, this is sincere. I am sorry.
Are you? Are you sorry? Because I said it right away. I said it the minute the last word escaped your lips.
Did you
said,
tell
really?
us so? Did you tell us that this was going to happen
Really?
to us?
I told you it was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen. I fucking told you. And look what happened.
Listen,
baseball gods are in sync. You know the minute you put that out in the world, the minute you put that energy out there, this is what happens.
I
this
understand.
Is what happens.
Listen, I understand.
I need a public apology to Clay Holmes. Like, you can say I'm sorry to me. You can say I'm sorry to Jay, to the listeners, to Jay. You can, hand up. I'm sorry. I didn't really mean it. It was in passing. My bad. No. If you're really about that action, if you're really, really genuinely sorry, then you would have no problem just firing off a little, hey, hand up. That's my bad on Clay Holmes. I was told that I should probably button it up. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And this is my fault. So just a public acknowledgement outside of, hey, maybe you heard it on the podcast. Maybe you didn't. That's my fault. And we got a jam-packed episode. There's a lot going on. It's really my fault. I feel kind of bad about it. Not really. Public apology. I think a public apology would solve everything.
I'm gonna just provide more context to Jay, who is a level-headed man here, where you have a clear bias. I will say this, Jay. Did we not? We did a Aaron Judge segment, so it's not like we just skipped out on the Yankees.
What?
We talked about the Yankees on the last episode.
This is personal.
We were going to piggyback it with the Clay Holmes stuff. We were up against the clock, and it was my vote of confidence. I didn't mean to strike a curse on the man. It was my vote of confidence that he would still have a 0 ERA by the next time we did a podcast. It was an honest error. There was no malicious intent. Do you think, Justin Havens, that I owe the man an apology, or is my explanation enough?
You know what? I'm not even as much interested in that question as I am about whether the one specific person on Twitter who tried to play gotcha with my Emmanuel Clase nugget in reference to Clay Holmes. And I said, well, wait a second, Clay Holmes doesn't have the minimum number of games. And he says, well, that's a weird parameter. And I said, well, let's just wait a second. And what did Clay Holmes do later that day? He coughed up 4 runs and is no longer eligible for that very arbitrary nugget that I came up with. So you can be focused on who needs to apologize in your life. I'm wondering if that person needs to apologize to me.
Jay, I would say, you know what, Jay? I would say yes. As the unbiased arbiter of who the fuck needs to apologize around here, I would say yes, Jay. You are absolutely due an apology. 1,000%. That was unfortunate, a lack of foresight by that individual on the internet. That's a bad look for that person. So hopefully they can get their shit together.
So it sounds like everybody has kind of apologized to who they need to, and we're just all kind of clean of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost everybody.
I mean,
would
I
say
have
that,
nobody
you
to
know?
apologize to, so I'm
Right.
cool,
You
but,
have
like,
nobody to apologize to, and we will track down that soulless bastard who needs to apologize to you.
As far as I'm concerned, they already have.
Mm-hmm. I've apologized. I apologize to Yankee fans. Sorry.
And there you go. Case closed, I feel like.
Not
Clay
apologizing
Holmes.
to Clay Holmes because I complimented the man.
I mean, you're trying to contextualize your lack of attention as motivation or as adulation, and I can respect that weasel move, but it's falling short here. And if you're
It's
okay with
falling
that,
short.
if you're okay with that, then you know what? Who am I to tell you how to move in the world?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I acknowledge that I tugged on the cape of the baseball gods, but that there was genuinely no intent to upset them.
You tugged on the cape and they turn around and hosed you down with every bit of urine in the wind.
Yeah.
You don't tug on Superman's cape.
Mhm.
You don't piss in the wind. And the baseball gods showed you exactly why.
Yeah.
Hang with them, Clay.
Damn it. Damn it.
Well, you know what? I could tell that you're handling this well, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson.
Is that
I
you're going
won't
to
do it
rebound.
again. You know?
Fucking evil. Evil.
Ah, listen,
Evil.
I think at the end of the day, you and I can both agree. Wouldn't you agree, Dallas, that you can't intentionally jinx something? Because then it doesn't work that way.
Yes. So that's a fine. You know what? Now we're getting into, yes, like the magic of some of the unwritten rules in baseball and how they're interpreted. And remember, there's no book on this. So if you haven't read the book, that is your fault.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that, but there is no book. So yes, when you start to try to intentionally apply the jinx, no, Jay, hey, the math works out. I promise. When you try to intentionally apply the jinx, you can't do that. You fall short. You're trying to conjure up negative energy. That's a bad vibe to bring to the diamond. Terrible vibe to bring to the diamond. You don't wish injuries on people. You don't wish bad productivity on people. You just don't do that because the baseball gods, they'll sniff that out. They will sniff that out. Yep. So,
side note, before we got a nice little rundown today. A lot of meaty topics today. I was at the Portland Sea Dogs yesterday with Jake and Coley and Steve and Corey, our graphics guy, who's very, very, very talented. Mike Emond on the ones and twos with the mic and the camera. Is very funny to me because I've now thrown out 4 first pitches, and I obviously don't do it with a glove. I know, like, when actors and singers sometimes, like, they'll bring like a glove with them. I didn't know I was throwing out the first pitch until about 2 minutes before I actually did it. But it's very funny to me when there's pictures taken of me throwing out a first pitch, and in the still image, my fingers separate the way that they would have if I was wearing a glove, just from like muscle memory.
So
like every picture of
you
me
have your
throwing a
fingers
first,
like this.
yeah.
So you were not a 2 in the pink guy.
No, I was a index finger out guy.
No. 2 in the pink has nothing to do with your index.
Well, yeah. What do you mean?
So the verbiage is 2 in the pink.
Yeah.
But the idea or the technical fitting would have the other fingers being identified, but that is not how it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all know the term.
We do.
But the 2 has to do with pinky. So your pinky, like are these two, because that's how. So when you slide these 2 fingers into a glove together, what it does is it creates a bigger webbing for you. So if you do this
like
with your glove, if you do this with your glove and you squeeze it, what happens is you typically get that, and that gets you a very terrible looking webbing that has about that much space for you to catch a ball in. But when you put your 2 fingers in the bottom of your glove like this and you squeeze your hand, you see how your hand has to squeeze now?
Yeah.
You have much more webbing to secure the baseball in, a very, just a bigger pocket. But it also has to do with when you start to bring your arm or your you start to move your upper body, your torso towards your chest, and you're clearing the front side. Doing so helps kind of pull that front side through and helps you exchange places.
I like that. Yeah, it's just always it's always interesting to see that. It's just like, oh, this is, if there's no glove here, but this is this is how it's supposed to look. I just always have claw hand when I'm throwing a baseball with no glove. Yeah. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, do we talk about the fact that was from in front of the mound, or do we blow past that?
Yeah, I saw some rat that listens to the podcast tagged you in it.
Is that what happened? I didn't see that.
Yeah, some rat tagged you in the tweet, and I responded. I was like, do you think maybe that's because they told me to do that? Every first pitch I've ever thrown out has been off the rubber, so I don't want to hear anything about me not throwing off the rubber for first pitches. Born Braves, Boston Red Sox, maybe you've heard of them, Lowell Spinners, Linfield Little League, and now the Portland Sea Dogs. I'm coming up with quite the list. Like all I need now, I think, is
were you competing in the Linfield game, or were you just present?
A little bit of both. It was a little like a player coach type situation. Yeah, so I did that, but yeah, that was the first time I ever threw a first pitch not off the rubber, because they told it was raining, so they were like, yeah, don't mess up the
well, I mean, you're spoken for these days, right? We're done with the rubber. We're done with using the rubber.
It's true. That's right, baby.
That's
Toss
right.
them in the barrel, baby. Oh yeah. But that's all. Hey, Woo Sox, call me up. I think that's how I have to complete it, right? I have single A, double A in the big leagues. I just need a triple A first pitch, and I'm good.
Are they the last one? See, we should have planned this differently. We should have had you
Work up to the big leagues.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the Red Sox needed ratings. It was 2022. We were in last place. It was Sunday Night Baseball. They were like, bring in the big guns. So, but yeah,
And
that's my
Pedro's
last
busy,
Infinity
so you
Stone.
shut up.
Pedro was busy. Yeah, I
Look at
think
you.
I still have all the balls. I printed off the picture of me and Alex Cora walking off the
you
mound
don't-
together.
You
Like,
gotta have
instead
all
of-
the balls.
Instead of framing me and Alex Cora, I think I should wait until I throw out the first pitch for the Woo Sox and then make like a collection of all the balls together.
What was what you should do is you should have Ellen just undo all the
I don't
baseballs
know
and
what
have her sew you a throw blanket.
What?
That's excessive.
A throw blanket? Come on, that was
Out of
fucking
baseballs,
hilarious.
I'd rather have the balls.
It has nothing to do with the fucking actual blanket. I have her undoing baseballs to make you a throw blanket.
I get the pun, Dallas.
Yeah,
I
well,
get the pun.
that was the only part that I cared about.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was it.
you
Like,
started
the idea
talking
of
about
it being
balls
real.
and my mom, and I thought we were going down a different path. I got defensive when I
Well,
didn't need to be.
speaking of going down,
All right.
that's you that goes there, not me.
That's you. That's you.
You
That
get
was
all
like
defensive.
you have like this. You have the same arm slot for your slider as you do your fastball, and I was like way out in front of that one.
Yeah, well, as my friend Dosky likes to say, we'll change up, pull the string right there, had me out front.
Yeah. You caught me leaning. That's fine.
Yeah,
It's
you're
a
right.
Good pitch. Good pitch.
Yeah.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats, strikeouts, total bases, home runs, and so much more. Make entries of all baseball or mix and match across your other favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. The whole thing about this is we're doing some promos that if you don't get in on them, you are just quite simply missing out. I understand
Yes.
Underdog is not in every single state, so you have an excuse if we are not in your state yet. But if we are, man, you are missing out. I actually have converted a bunch of my friends to Underdog. They were like, oh, man, I didn't know that you guys were doing these promos. And I'm like, yep, you should probably get in on that action. And I would imagine once the NBA Finals wraps up and the Stanley Cup, there'll be even more of an influx of because, I mean, we're going to start building promos around the things that we talk about on the podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, we will, surprise, we're going to be talking about Mason Miller in this episode, and rightfully so. It's not repeat content. He just keeps doing more crazy shit that needs to be discussed. So we'll build stuff around Mason Miller, Paul Skeens, just the normal guys that we like to suck off on this podcast. And if you do sign up, if you have not signed up yet, Make sure that you sign up with the promo code Jared, Jared, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That is Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code Jared. I have Mason Miller kind of like down the line, but I feel like we should probably start there because the more that I dug into it this morning, the more I was like, this is not just your prototypical Mason Miller discussion that we normally have on this podcast. Did you know? I'm sure you did know, Dallas. Mason Miller has thrown a no-hitter over his last 7 games. Yeah. His last 7 games combined, Mason Miller has thrown 9 innings with 18 strikeouts, 1 walk, and no hits.
This is I mean, we have the numbers and you've seen the tweets. That is obviously dominating. He is the first reliever since 1901 to have a 15-game stretch of 0 earned runs, 40 or more strikeouts, with fewer than 5 walks. His last 15 games look like this: 19 in the third innings, 40 punchouts. That's right, 40 strikeouts, 4 hits allowed. Opponents are hitting .068. They're hitting 68 against Mason Miller. And he has a negative FIP. Negative 0.38.
If you were to
So
ask,
he's controlling what the hitters do in his sleep, essentially. When he thinks about punching a guy out, he gets rewarded for that. That's what that number means. All right? Said another way, and this is what I said about Charlie Blackmon last night after I watched him wave at a slider down an
well,
end. These guys
I have
need
the clip right here. This is
if
you're gonna ask Dallas Braden, you guys having fun on the broadcast when Mason Miller's pitching? This is last night. Oh man.
It's not.
And I'm just glad that you're being you. Like, I'm glad that you're not trying to be like buttoned up broadcaster Dallas. Like, you're just being Dallas up there. It's great.
That's also the laugh of a man who's had about 8 other innings of built up loser tension, right? It's like, God fucking damn it. Mason Miller. It's like the joke, kind of jokerish. You know what I mean?
Yes, Jay. Hey, it is. And and I was talking to Spilly, Ryan Spilborgs, before the game. And dude, this is everybody. And when we were in Kansas City, and I'm not gonna name them, but there were lots of dudes who were like, yo, like, truth be told, I'm trying to see that shit. Like, I want to see that. And I know what that means. Like, if we see him, like, you know, game is probably not going in our favor. I don't like whatever. I want to see it. I want to feel it. Like, I want to fucking ride that ride. It's like cowboys. It's like a group of cowboys who are standing around the corral and the truck backs up and the fucking gate lowers and you hear this noise. You can smell this different smell. The fucking truck is rattling. You're like, what is in there? What is in there? And they're like, frankly, brother, I don't know, but I think I won't ride it. I think I'd go for a ride. I'll take it for a spin. And then the fucking bull comes out and you're like, well, you know, I've been thinking, and I think that might be a bad idea. I'm thinking if you got a sheep over there that we could start off on, that might be a better role for me. It's just, and I remember when I showed you guys the picture of him walking down the line through his teammates, and each and every one of them were just like, oh, they're looking at this dude like he's the fucking second coming, because the numbers tell you he's the second coming. He leads his team in strikeouts. And we talked about this last time, and I said it.
That says more about the A's, I think. But
yeah, well, it's a combination of both. It's a combination of you don't have much in terms of that kind of firepower, anything close to that in your starting rotation. But that's what kind of firepower this dude possesses, because this is otherworldly type shit. It's otherworldly. And I mean, I feel like watching the Charlie Blackmon at bat last night, and then watching the rest of the at-bats unfold, you almost can see the gap between guys who have spent a career dealing with, you know, mid to upper level shit in Charlie Blackmon, and then watch an aging Charlie Blackmon get introduced to this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, is this the next level of the, okay.
Imagine being Charlie Blackmon, and it's like you go back to the dugout to look at the iPad after you're at bat, and you're like, I just want to see that fastball again. Let's see this. Oh man, are they fucking laughing at me?
Well, dude, that's and I
see
said
where
this.
I missed. Was I up? Was I down?
And I said this like, and you do like in the moment you feel bad, and it's not like you're not taking anything away from the hitters because you're like, dude, I know how hard this is. I get it, and I genuinely am like blown away when I watch guys like a Charlie Blackmon wave and miss to that extent. When I watch a guy like Juan Soto, he's an hour late. Like Juan Soto's not late on anybody for anything. And he was overmatched. He was perplexed walking out of the batter's box. All of these guys are. Each and every one of them walks up there and is like, nah, I'm not the dude. I'll be the dude to show the dude. And they are not that dude. We've yet to find that dude.
So he's 9 for 9. He's perfect in save opportunities. So I guess it's going to be another like Yamamoto situation where you just throw out the first one. His first outing, he threw an inning, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, walked a guy, and only struck out 1 batter. So that was his first outing of the year. So since then, he's appeared in 15 games. Mm-hmm. He's struck out 61% of the batters that he's faced, and 40 of the 58 outs that he's recorded have been strikeouts. That is 69%.
Oh, nice.
68.9. So we'll call it 69% of the outs that he's recorded since his second appearance of the season have all been strikeouts. Like, you got to ask, like, these A's players, like, are you just, like, napping when he's out there? Like, you got to be.
I was wearing him out because his outing in Kansas City, I believe, is the first outing that he did not have a strikeout. And I was like, bro, you washed?
Yeah, it was Kansas
City.
Good? Yeah.
Are we good? Is everything...
Did it run out?
Is everything good? Like when I walked onto the plane and he was standing there and I looked at him and he looked at me with a smile and I was just like, we okay?
Yeah.
Right? And he just, kind of wryly smiled like, buddy, come on. There's,
they don't know what to do.
Sometimes the
there.
lion just wants to yawn in the shade and it doesn't, they have, well, you know what's funny, Jared, is you can see, that's what I mean, is you can see these dudes walk up with a game plan. They're like, all right, this is what we're doing. I'm getting on the heater. I'm not getting off the heater. And that was 102. I don't think I was on that one. You know what?
Whoever was the last out, it was 103.
Yeah. Well, I know. But what I'm saying is you can see them game plan. They think they're ready for what they're about to be introduced to. And then they find out very quickly that they're not ready.
Yeah. And he's like watching his strikes. Like, it's not like it's a wild one. He's thrown 278 pitches. Again, this is like since the second appearance. 278 pitches, 71% strike rate. And guys don't know what to do. It's 21% strikes looking. It's 24% strikes swinging. Like, they're just like, I don't know, dude. Like, it is what it is.
That's why I said that you can see them go up there thinking that they have an idea of what they want to do, and then they get broken off, and then they see things that they've never seen before, and they're like, I'm not sure how I game plan for that. Like, you want me to hit that? Because I can't even fucking see it.
No.
And the way it explodes, like like that the ball picks up another gear. Somewhere along the line from his hand to home plate, the ball picks up another gear. Like, it's stupid. Let me run through very quickly this little this database and the basically the grades, the scouting report that comes along with Mason Miller, and I'll give you context for the rest of the league as well. And this is for relievers. All right. First pitch strike rate for relievers on average 61%. Mason Miller, it's 71%. One of the 2 first pitches being a strike. Average reliever, 85% of the time. Mason Miller, 93% of the time. 2 of the first 3 pitches being strikes. Average, 64. Mason Miller, 80%. Percentage of 0-1 counts that get to 0-2. Average 52%. For Mason Miller, 65%. Converting that all-important 1-1 count, average 57% of the time. Mason Miller converts it 69% of the time. So fastball, cutter, command, 71% strikes for Mason Miller. Average, 66%. Strikes on off speed, 68% of the time. Average, big league reliever, 62% of the time. 2-strike plate appearances becoming outs. So once we get you to 2 strikes, can I put you the fuck away? Mason Miller does it 88% of the time. The rest of the world does it on average about 74% of the time. He is an anomaly.
I just hope that the Mason Miller starting the All-Star game narrative is picking up steam. I feel like it is a little bit, yeah.
It is, and here's the thing. I'll tell you why it is because I've had people, and when we talked about it, remember I mentioned that we had talked about this and we had discussed this in Oakland early, like, yo, what if? What could this be a fucking thing? Like, for all the reasons we talked about. Now, other people are posing that question unsolicited. Like, hey, have you thought about, like, if he makes it, do you think
Thanks
the
for
league
listening
would
to
ever
the podcast, by the way?
And so right, and I don't hit him with the, so you're a BID listener. I let that happen organically because you can start to see it, I think, and whether that's people are listening to us or not.
More and more people are.
Yeah, that's true.
They're dabbling. They're figuring it out. Like, yeah, this is what we would want to see. That's actually a great suggestion. That makes a ton of sense. The last number that I'll throw out there for Mason Miller, because it's just like average swing and miss percentage strikes. So 20% of the strikes are swing and miss from relievers on average. For him, 35%.
They're not touching it.
Yeah, 35% of the time they don't even touch it.
Yeah, it's not getting touched. Jay, do you have anything on Mason Miller for you?
What stood out to me from what you guys were saying is the idea that particularly if I was an established player or a star, I would absolutely want to step in the box against Mason Miller and see what it was all about. I think there's also, like, I'm not trying to Clay Holmes the guy in any way, but like just the very nature of relievers, there's also, I think, probably an awareness that, like, this is kind of a shooting star sort of experience going on here. And whether it's, if he is an anomaly and he's, Craig Kimbrell or something like that, reincarnate, the new version, the even juiced up version of what Craig Kimbrell used to be in his prime, and he lasts 10, 12 years, then fucking great. I hope we're still talking about him. But I think it's also like, I want to experience this guy at what could be the peak of his powers. Maybe not. But it's hard to imagine a guy being less hittable, more unhittable than Mason Miller currently is. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's a little bit of a dated reference now because I guess, he's been retired for 2 decades basically, but I'll never forget. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. I'll never forget when Barry Larkin, when I used to work with him at ESPN, and he was an analyst on the show until I'm ballparking this, but like 2015, maybe. And I remember him saying that, like, he was glad, he knew at the time that he exited the game and that he was overwhelmed at what he was seeing at the time. He was like, I'm glad I played when I did, because this stuff is just absolutely impossible. And I think it was in reference to, like, as we talked about, a podcast or two ago, that Royals bullpen, the 14-15 era Royals bullpen, I think is what triggered that comment, being like that there's just so many relievers out there throwing 95 plus. It was 95 plus at the time. That same conversation is now 100 plus, basically. So it just keeps getting more and more intense. But like, that a Hall of Fame level player was admitting that to a bunch of just essentially like random people, and certainly people beneath him in the baseball kingdom, was eye-opening to me. And speaks it's only more prevalent now. The game's only moving faster in that regard right now.
Yeah.
15 appearances, 19 and a third innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, 40 strikeouts.
Pure dominance.
Yeah. Speaking of pure dominance, Ranger Suárez doing it again. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run. couple walks, and he punched out 10
Career
last
high.
night. Yep, career high. 10 tickets for Ranger Suárez against the Tejas Rangers. The ERA is down to 1.36 through his first 10 starts. This is it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch because, like I said before, became a fan of Ranger Suárez watching him pitch in a kind of a hybrid role for the Phillies in the playoffs in 2022. It's been fun to watch him blossom into this elite arm in the Phillies rotation where his rotation mates have a lot of money and a lot of clout and namesake to them, and he's the standout guy. It's been a lot of fun to watch him this year. Does anyone have any thoughts on Ranger Suárez?
It's, I think everything you just said in terms of what the eyeballs do when you talk about the Phillies and where they go, even with this kind of start that he's off to, the eyeballs go other places, and understandable and maybe even fair to an extent. But what he is doing right now, I mean, obviously historical. It's historical, but this is the kind of performance that can propel a team that might have been on the fringe of like, oh, yes, they're a potential division contender. No doubt, one of the lead horses in a wild card conversation, to when you have a team like the Braves miss out on a guy or lose a guy like Strider, and you have Ranger Suárez performing the way he is, this can become a clear-cut favorite in the division if they continue to play baseball or they continue to pitch the way they are, and he continues to perform the way they do, and the offense does what they're capable of, right? This dude is you didn't expect fucking 10-0. I mean, it's 9-0 through the first 10 starts. Like his 1.36 is the third lowest ERA in franchise history through the first 10 starts. Grover Alexander threw up a 1.24 in 1916 and then threw up a 1.31 the year before that in 1915. And you got to go all the way back to 1910 for the last time a Philly won 9 starts in a row, like at any point in time. To start the season, to end the season, in the middle of the season, it doesn't matter. You got to go back to 1910 for that. And he has just achieved that. And there were some other names.
Phillies also won that game too, by the way. The first of his 10 starts, they won the game. He got a no decision, and now he's 9-0 since then.
Yeah. And there were some other names that were thrown around, with the first to start 9-0 with an ERA under 1.5. Because he was the first one to do it since 1966, Juan Marichal. And so I looked at some of those numbers during those seasons for these guys. And Ranger Suárez, through his first 10 starts, 66 innings, 68 strikeouts, 12 walks, opponents hitting 174 against him. 1 complete game, 1 shutout under his belt in that time. Juan Marichal, the Dominican dandy, had 92 innings, 60 punch-outs, 8 walks. Opponents hit 159 against him. He had 8 complete games, 4 shutouts, including a 14-inning CG shut piece against the Philadelphia Phillies. Our man Falkenberg, 88 innings, 52 punch-outs, 24 walks. Opponents hit 201 against him. He had 9 complete games, 2 shutouts. And then Walter Johnson, the train. 68 2/3 innings, 48 strikeouts, 9 walks. Opponents hit 174 against him as well. He only started 7 games during that 10-game stretch. He threw 6 complete games out of those 7 starts. 4 of those were shutouts. And then he also finished the other 3 games himself.
Pretty good. Jay?
I mean, not nearly as important as real baseball is that you're also looking at one of the great fantasy difference makers of the season if you're into that kind of stuff. I mean, we were just talking about Ubaldo's 2010. I mean, that's basically the last time I think we saw something that was had this sort of win ERA combination in terms of that. But, in terms of like what stands out, it's hard not to notice the swings and misses last night. And I know we talked about that it was a career high, but like, even a casual glance at his Baseball Savant page reveals that, like, at least part of the deal here is that he's getting a lot more swings and misses on pitches outside of the zone, and generally more chase in general. And what I found interesting upon digging a little further about that, and then doing some background reading on some research that had already been done on the topic, was the idea of his changeup. And I won't read all of the numbers, but for people who are interested, I would go take a look at that, because what you'll see is that, like, there's been a year-to-year change in where this pitch is being located, how much vertical drop it's featuring, and the miles per hour that he's throwing the pitch at. And it's pretty drastic. I mean, he's lost basically lost, quote unquote, 4 miles an hour off of the pitch in 2 seasons, which I don't think I need to tell anybody is an intentional decision, and not Ranger Suárez like losing gas off of his arm.
No.
But that's like, obviously that we're looking at one of the great starts is kind of the headliner here. But under the hood, I think there's some interesting stuff going on that, is worth, a little bit of additional research. But that's what stands out to me, above and beyond all the, the conversations that we've had previously about how this changes the Phillies picture and World Series viability and postseason, pecking order stuff.
Well, you're going to see this with guys across the league, and the introduction of a certain pitch, or maybe the removal of a certain pitch, and then watching them take off. And there's a term that we use when we start talking about arming guys with the best possible tools that they can have out there on the mound, and that's called weaponizing. We weaponize their stuff. This is what you have. This is what you do well. So I now need to show you how to use this. And I need to get you to understand how it plays and why it plays the way it does. And this is where we start to get into the in-depth conversations about guys who understand why they're getting the results they're getting, as opposed to guys who are just out stuffing the opponent. What Ranger Suárez is doing is combining the stuff with an intentional approach. So this is out stuffing your opponent on both fronts. The actual stuff is better than what they can adjust to at the moment, and he understands why he's doing what he's doing. And that is also creating the gap.
Well, to that specific point there about knowing what you're doing, I was reading a Fangraphs article about him from earlier in the season, and they made a point that I think is broadly just as true about Suárez then as it was now, 2 months later or a month and a half later, is that, like, command and control, like that sort of idea, it's usually associated with being in the strike zone, and it can just as often be about where and when you're putting the ball outside of the strike zone, or with what pitch, at what time, and that sort of stuff. Like, that's really the same conversation. And sometimes that's a good reminder. And I think Ranger Suárez's approach this season is a specific reminder that you can be really successful doing that if you can command and control that situation.
Yes. And the difference between command and control. Control is the ability to throw strikes. Command is throwing strikes when you want to and balls when you want to. That's the difference. I can throw this ball 2 inches off because of the result it gets me and what I'm able to do off of this pitch, as opposed to just having to throw strikes. I just need to throw strikes. And that's what you see guys, I think, battle early when they have a new toy that they're taking for a spin, a new pitch, is they don't really have an idea of how to pitch with that pitch. They know they want to throw it for strikes. And then from there, they know if they're ahead in the count, they don't want to throw it for a strike because they want to see if they can get the swing and miss. They want to see if they can get the expanded chase. And then you start to learn, oh, wow, okay, if a guy's hunting the fastball, I can throw this first pitch and I can get the strike, and I can now take the way he's taken that pitch and apply information to that. That now speeds him up. There's just so many different layers in between controlling the baseball and just throwing strikes and then commanding your arsenal.
It's a 103 ERA, by the way, over the 9-0 stretch for Ranger Suárez. So, something to keep an eye on. Great story in baseball. I don't know if you saw this last night, but Alan Porter
Oh, hot mic.
left his mic on last night. And I figured that I honestly thought this would happen more since they gave them the microphones. But the fact that, you give an umpire a microphone, he leaves it on, and obviously you're going to get an F-bomb. Like, it's guaranteed. So
after review, the call is overturned. It is a home run.
All right, so Seager has his 6th home run. It makes it a 1-run game.
See, that was one where we all thought it was gone.
Yeah,
but we're
Alan.
like, it's just a crew chief review, and we're just going to go, because we're not going to flip it and then fucking look stupid if it didn't leave.
thank you, Alan.
I love that whoever was calling the game is like, trying to interact with him, obviously, play it up, which was going to be great. That was going to be great until Alan just kept rolling. It's
only makes umpires and that guy more relatable.
Yeah. Sometimes
they should do that every game.
But it's a crew chief review.
Listen, guys, we didn't want to look
fuck.
like fucking assholes, so we just we kicked it upstairs, and here's the result. Can you blame us? Like, we didn't want to.
I love it. Transparency. It's what we're here for.
Yeah. And if you want to actually be there for it, Dallas.
Oh, you got a hookup?
Yeah, you got to download the Game Time app.
Oh, done deal.
Yeah, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of all Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. By the way, we keep talking about these plans that we're going to make for the All-Star game. It sounds like the home run derby is going to be a thing. I don't want to promise it. I don't want to guarantee it. But the home run derby has reached the higher ups here at Underdog.
Well, why wouldn't it?
I mean, if there's cash prizes, that's going to be very exciting. So get your tickets to the MLB All-Star game with the Game Time app. You're going to want to be there for this. We will be there. Dallas, you're coming, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we need to iron these details out because I'm going to be in Boston, and then from Boston I'm going to Philly, and then from Philly I would be going to the All-Star game.
Right. So that's like a 15-day trip, 10-day trip?
Yeah, it's girthy.
It's a meaty trip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Boston, Philly, Texas for me.
You want to go to breakfast?
I can do breakfast. Yeah, I'm a brekkie guy.
Yeah. You can come on over, hang out. We can do a podcast here. We can have Jay Hay. We could probably have Jay Hay come to
are you going to so Jay Hay would come to your, or I thought you were going to come where I was going to be staying.
No, that wouldn't make sense. All the equipment's here.
That's fair.
Yeah. More space, lighting, more room for Jake to shoot it. Shit like
Makes
that.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, comedy, theater, and more. Like Ashanti. What? If you like, all right, let's say hypothetically, Dallas.
Whoa.
Let's just say it's hypothetical, right? Hypothetical hot tub question here.
Okay.
You're in Boston,
Mhm.
and then the A's play the Phillies, but you get in on an off day. You have the day to yourself, and Ashanti's playing that night in Philadelphia. You're
Mhm.
telling me you're not going to go?
Is she playing in the parking lot of the hotel that we're staying at?
If she was within 1 mile of your hotel, you going?
If I'm not on the VIP list, I'm upset about it.
I don't know that there was a VIP list.
No?
I mean, I wasn't on it, so it must not exist.
Well, I think that list was just like, you don't have to help pack up after the concert's over.
Game Time's got flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. They've got the zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seats for you. All in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy the tickets. And of course, the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code BID, and that'll get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the promo code BID for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Dallas, you see your boy last night, Oneil Cruz?
Buddy, did I see Oneil Cruz? Did you see Oneil Cruz, or did you hear? Did you hear Oneil Cruz?
Yeah, you're right.
Because that's what it was more about. Is what you were hearing
like.
from Oneil Cruz. And I want to say somebody, because I got home last night from my game, and was just looking shit up, and saw, I was reading the article on Oneil Cruz and what he was doing, and someone was like, "Oh, you're trying to fucking steal Jay Hayes' shtick with the nugs," and I was like, "Look, dude, I'm not. Some like the straightaway freshly baked nugs. Some like their nugs laced Jay Hay." And that's exactly what Oneil Cruz provided me with the opportunity to do, was lace some nugs, because he was lacing the baseball. First inning, 120.4 mile an hour knock.
Decent.
Third inning, 116.3 mile an hour knock. That was a double. And then at the most pivotal part of the game, he decided to unleash and Jay, hey, you're the numbers guy here. If you round up 121.5, I think that takes you to 122, I believe. And that would be the hardest hit ball of the night. But we're really just beginning. Because Oneil Cruz in the StatCast era, which again, since 2015, there have only been 20 balls hit 120 plus miles an hour. And Oneil Cruz had 2 of them yesterday. 2 of them. So the 20, he had 2 of them yesterday. That yeah, go ahead and count that. First time ever there's been an exit velocity of 120 miles an hour on a pitch thrown 100 miles an hour. The Camilo Duvall cutter that he absolutely pissed on at the end of the game came in at 100.3 and left at 122 miles an hour. And remember, Oneil Cruz is the record holder with the hardest hit ball at 122.4 miles an hour. So, yeah, Oneil Cruz. The second, he has the second highest average swing speed at 78 miles an hour. He has the second fastest swing rate. So the fast swing rate, 75 miles an hour or greater, he achieves that 75.1% of the time. That's second in baseball. He's 11th in blasts swing percentage, which results 17.7% of the time. It's a 25% blast contact rate, which is 6th in baseball. He became the first player ever with 2 batted balls with an exit velocity of 120 miles an hour or greater in the same game, while also becoming the first player ever to have 3 batted balls of 115 miles an hour or greater in the same game. Nobody else has done any of this ever. Ever.
Ever.
Ever.
Is Oneil Cruz, where is he in your top 5 favorite players in baseball today, Dallas?
Ooh. He's probably outside of my top 5 just because I don't know. Like, I feel like there's like I struggle with him because I know what type of players like he almost has a bit of the Robinson Cano stigma attached to him, because guys are like, dude, sometimes it looks like he's not trying. sometimes, and I'm like, well, that's because like the dude does things at a different clip than normal human beings do them. Like he doesn't have to. Sometimes it looks like he's not swinging that hard, and it's unleashing ferocity. So when I think about like he's not.
No, he's
like,
way outside of
your
your top 5 is the answer. Great.
No, there's things about his game like when you watch him, like you watch him range athletically, it doesn't look. It's not like, oh wow, but you watch him throw a ball. And it's like I watch him take infield and I watch him throw balls flat-footed from places in the infield that other people just can't do it. Cannot do it.
For me, he's in my top 5 most frustrating players in the game today.
I'm way closer to that. I'm going to put on my player hater hat. I'm going to put on the player hater hat for a second.
He has all the tools to be a superstar, but he's just not yet.
And that's exactly why. Like, not just because they came out of Dallas's mouth and not just because I didn't come up with them myself. I am left wanting on this Oneil Cruz exit velocity stuff. I just like the 100-120 thing. I saw that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. The other stuff leaves me wanting because what made Giancarlo Stanton so cool wasn't just that he hit the shit out of the ball. It's that he hit the shit out of the ball while being very good. And like the hard hit balls were home runs. And in between those hard hit balls, there were other things that were happening, not so much anymore, but in his prime, certainly. And when he was younger, we can't forget about how athletic and awesome Giancarlo Stanton was. Oneil Cruz, like, we're still talking about a guy with an OPS in the mid 700s who has very much not put together any sort of sustained, like even the hot streak that Dallas sold us on like a week ago or whatever it was like an 850.
Sold you one.
It was like an 850 OPS. It was like,
you go back to that day, Jay. He's hitting almost fucking 300. The day that I told you that
he's
he
hitting
was
almost 300. Yeah, thank you.
Coming from where? Context doesn't matter. Are you fucking serious?
No,
the guy was a fucking automatic out, and then he went from being an automatic out to powering the fucking offense to being a guy who was not an automatic out and then helping everybody else around him, which is exactly what you're looking for a guy to fucking do. So he did that. Oh, and so. When I said he's getting hotter and he started to get hotter and he started to turn his season around from how it started, and that is now factually true, how would you have me describe that? Hey, things are getting better, but let's look down the road a little bit and see if the numbers are better. Oh, hey, they are. We're here.
Well,
he got hotter.
The
point is that even this incredibly hot stretch is fairly limited in the scope of all these sort of hot stretches that we've talked about for different players over the course of this season. Like, he's still not achieving at the level that you would anticipate from a guy who's hitting 120 mile an hour piss rockets.
Which is why
I don't, or whatever.
Hold on, timeout. April 21st, Oneil Cruz was hitting Dallas 209 with a 586 OPS. He's played in 25 games since then, 96 plate appearances, and he is hitting above 300. He's hitting 308 with an 893 OPS. So that is better than the mid 800s. Like he's almost licking 900 OPS and he's hitting over 300. Like that's what I want to see from him for a full season because he's capable of that. He's capable
exactly for a full season, which is why when you ask me, is he in my top 5 of most exciting players, as somebody who watches the guy and gives a shit about the guy, I have to be honest and tell you that he's not in the top 5, but it's for these reasons. Because I just told you, do you watch him? How many times have you seen Oneil Cruz's name or an Oneil Cruz defensive highlight flash across your screen? Maybe not as many as you've seen from other guys. But what I see personally, like I said, I just watched the dude take ground balls. Like when I say this to you, I work my day around this shit. When the Pirates were in town, I got up and I went to the ballpark earlier so that I could watch them move. So I can go walk back in the fucking hitting cage and watch them move, watch them talk, just watch them go about their business. And that's where I'm coming from with Oneil Cruz, is I watch this dude take BP and I watch him very cavalierly spray balls all around one of the biggest yards in baseball at the Coliseum. And then I watch him very cavalierly hit a ball probably 120 miles an hour off the fucking glass windows, dead center field at the Coliseum. and it looked like there's probably 70% more horsepower behind it. And then I watch him throw balls 100 miles an hour across the diamond from essentially third base because he's pissed off that the footwork wasn't great. I watched every bit of this, and that's why when I take a look at where he came from at the beginning of the season and that date at that moment and what you want from Oneil Cruz, he's giving you that. But to your point, Jared, which is what everybody in Pittsburgh has been saying, is we want to see it how long. That's why last year sucked, is because that was going to be the year where we were going to hopefully see the breakout. Hopefully see this fucking Martian leave Earth like we've been anticipating. Well, now's the year. He snapped his fucking leg last year. Now's the year.
Yeah, and I don't mind the slow start so long as he doesn't let it linger too long. And it was essentially about 3 weeks that he really, really sucked. Also, just wanted to quickly mention the Pittsburgh Pirates because we did a Paul Skeens discussion after his second start, and a Pirates fan tweeted us and said it's impressive that you guys did a whole bit about Paul Skeens without mentioning the Pirates once, and we just did a whole Oneil Cruz thing without mentioning the Pirates once. So I just want a quick shout out to the Pittsburgh Pirates who employ both Paul Skeens and Oneil Cruz.
That's the extent of the shout out. I do love that.
Yep. Just want to mention
it dawned on me too that Oneil Cruz, if you add up all of the seasons of his career, he's now played in 145 games and gotten 598 plate appearances. So damn near, what you would expect out of one full season. And he's 244, 303, 446, which is extremely close to what his actual slash line is so far this season. I know we've broken down the hot and cold of it. But I just if he's the centerpiece of this Pirates offense moving forward, he kind of needs to be what Dallas outlined in that hot streak. That can't be the hot streak part of him. Right. That has to be, that's kind of what I was saying. It's that has to be what he is
baseline
all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, to throw it back to the Stanton thing, part of what made Stanton awesome at his peak is that the exit velocities were matching up with the production, and we're just still not there with Cruz yet. So I love clicking on the highlights and seeing the batted balls, but you can lose me a little bit with first dude with multiple 120. It's okay, cool. Can you just be really good and then do those things too? So that's kind of my perspective on it. But
I think Jay, when you start to look at that stuff too, though, think about why we value.
Oh, I like it for research purposes. I should say that. Yeah.
But from a player perspective, player performance perspective, when you see where he ranks in the hard swings and the fast swing rate and the blast rate, the reason we like Juan Soto is because the fucker swings as hard as he does and barrels balls as consistently as he does, because when you put those two numbers together, we know what the productivity could look like there. So asking Oneil Cruz to line those numbers up, while you want to see more from him, I think there is a not a cap, but there's a realm you start to creep into when you ask these numbers to start to match up, and that realm starts to become a Juan Soto type realm, and those are two very different players.
Well, I was talking to Oneil Cruz. I didn't expect that to be a meaty conversation. I was just kind of talking about exit velocity, but
whatever.
Sticking with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Barry Lamar Bonds has been elected to the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame. I know it's not Cooperstown. I know it's not, who knows if it's going to be the, if this is going to help at all. Because I know that other teams have done that where there's questionable characters. Jared. What?
Do you die? Do we die without Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think we do.
I don't think we do either.
Yeah, I think eventually people will just get the fuck over it. I really do. Like
what's great is there's no other fucking chance for it other than that right there.
Yeah.
And man, yeah. I want to. Yeah. That's all. We don't need to go into it. We don't because we will beat that horse. So let's not.
You know what it is? We need like a Aaron Hernandez situation in baseball for the voters to be like, in comparison, it's really not that bad. Like we need like a potential Hall of Famer to like kill some people, and then it becomes this whole thing. And they're like, all of a sudden, like the Barry situation really doesn't look so bad. Like we got to put this guy in. Right.
Like the guy just wouldn't confirm, and that's a lot better than murder, isn't it?
Yeah. Like he killed people. You guys still kind of want to vote for him. Barry just was trying to do what was best for the San Francisco Giants. But here's the clip the Pirates put up.
Harry, would you open that up and what's that say there, Barry?
Pirates Hall of Fame have been selected to include in Pittsburgh Hall of Fame. That is awesome.
Mr. Nutting would like you to attend the Hall of Fame class of 2024.
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, it's great. That's where my career started, right? That's who drafted me. I couldn't have had a better manager, a better team, a better starting point for me. It was perfect. I mean, we built a bond that there's no way it's ever going to be broken. To be able to tell my kids that, your dad's gotten into the Pirates Hall of Fame, and this is just a great moment.
That's pretty cool. You can tell like it means something to him. I mean, it's not like one of those like, oh, gee, thanks. It's not the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like I think it means something to him that it's the Pirates Hall of Fame where it all started.
I do, but I'm not gonna lie. The entire time I'm thinking this is giving some serious undercover boss vibes. Like serious undercover boss vibes. Like we're at the very end of the show. They're like, actually, my name's not James with a very bad ponytail, working the fucking grease fryer next to you. I'm Jim, and I'm the owner of the place. Like I'm the CEO, and I just wanted to thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I know you lost your arm back in the '87 meat grinder incident, and so here's a little T-Rex hand clipper that we like to give you for all of your work and appreciate it. Like Barry's like, hey, I'm the home run king. I'm regarded as the best player on the fucking planet. So I appreciate you checking in, and I would love for you to hang the plaque or whatever you're going to do. That means a lot. Thank you. But
what have they done to Barry Bonds?
I love the fact that he shouted out Jimmy though. Jim Leland, great manager, because I think everybody remembers the clip of Leland just absolutely ripping Barry in the outfield in front of his teammates. But yeah, this while I know he appreciates it, it did give me some very strong undercover boss vibes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good they didn't rush into anything. Putting him in the hall, had to go through a lot of red tape that had to go through. A lot of people had to review the paperwork.
It's a vetting process, Jay. Hey.
Yeah, no, he's only been out of the game for 2 decades. I'm glad we got around to putting him in the Pirates Hall of Fame. Like, like they don't have enough room, I don't know. Gives me the whole thing creeps me out.
Well, I think to that point, they've waited. I mean, he's been retired since 2007, so it's been about 20 years. Jim Leland is also in this class. So it's not like we're distancing ourselves from Barry because of all that.
That's weird too.
I agree. It's the Pirates. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, I'm not going to back down that because, I guess it is good context to tell me that Jim Leland is in the same class.
Yes.
It's just as weird that it took them this long to honor.
Agreed.
Both of them. I mean, what, the second or third greatest manager in franchise history, and the only ones who would have an argument ahead of this guy are people whose gravestones are now little pebbles that they've been worn down, they've been dead so long. Like, it's like, come on.
I'm just fantasizing at this point. I would love to hear some sort of background story of Jim Leland saying like, they asked me to be in the Pirates Hall of Fame 25 years ago.
Unless Barry's going.
Yeah, like it's not the Pirates Hall of Fame unless Barry's there. So I'm not going in unless Barry goes in.
I just
that
don't
would make
like,
way more sense.
I don't like Barry, like whoever that little weasel was who revealed the Pirates Hall of Fame thing to Barry. I don't like how he was like, Mr. Nutting would like you to attend. It's like, yeah. And we're supposed to be, Barry Bonds supposed to be like, oh, thank you so much for welcoming me into the Pirates Hall of Fame. It's like, give me a break. Making him like grovel like that.
Yeah.
This is Barry
like
Bonds,
he's opening,
man.
like he's opening the 6th golden ticket from Wonka.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one more ticket here. And Mr. Bonds, it has your name on it. Will you do us the honors, please?
Barry Bonds from 1986 to 1992, the only 2-time MVP in Pirates history. From he won in 1990 and 1992. He was MVP runner-up in 1991. Won 3 Gold Gloves and 2 Silver Sluggers. He was an All-Star. That feels weird. Only twice, 1990 and 1992, the years that he won the MVP. Led the National League in OPS in 1990, 1991, and 1992. Led the National League in on base 1991 and 1992. Ranks 5th all-time on the home run list for the franchise. And ranks 6th all-time in stolen bases.
I know people have Giants Barry Bonds in their head, and they should, because that's like where everything went down historically. But like, he won 2 MVPs with the Pirates. Like, the number of players who have won 2 MVPs with one franchise is not as long as people probably think it is. And I know that, you know, when you leave as a free agent, like, there can be some fences that need to be mended, but man, it's just, don't forget about how awesome Barry Bonds was in that stretch too.
This is when he was becoming the elite power threat that he would eventually grow into. When you look at his numbers, you go back to 1988. 1988 was the last time that he would ever strike out more than he would walk in a season. Ever. 1988. He was done with it. That was the last time I will ever strike out more than I walk. And the reason that matters is because of the power productivity that ensued. 1992 was the last time he would hit more doubles than home runs. And that wouldn't happen again until 1998. But that year he hit 44 doubles and 37 homers. And after 1998, that wouldn't happen again. So the evolution of Barry Bonds, when we talk about him turning into that beast, that feared power hitter, where did that come from? When did it happen? Well, right then, as soon as he ended up like that last year in Pittsburgh, from there, it was, this is who I'm going to be.
That last year in Pittsburgh, he had better offensive numbers rate-wise than what Ohtani did last year. Like, he was already that level of offensive player before he left. That's how good Barry Bonds was, even though it wasn't the 70 homer type.
No, and that was
shape.
What, the first three. That was, he won the MVP in 90, 89.
The first one was 90, 92, 93.
Yeah, so I mean, in that fucking 4-year window, he won 3 MVPs, and then
could have won the year he didn't. He finished second.
Yeah,
to Terry Pendleton, which I believe we've covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe we took Terry's.
Yeah, that's no longer. Yeah,
Sorry, Terry.
I mean, yeah, that's probably a bigger deal for Barry than Pirates Hall of Fame. I think BID gave him another MVP.
Gave him his MVP back.
Yep.
I feel like this is more of a Jay Hay topic, but Kyle Hendricks was removed from the Cubs rotation.
Yep. Let me take that horse on now back.
Yeah.
Time to head on to the glue factory. 10.57 ERA. I mean, they gave him 7 starts, right?
It's early.
No,
it's early.
It's very late.
Come on.
It's very late.
It is extremely late. Third highest ERA through the first 7 starts of a season by a pitcher in the wild card era. The only times we've ever seen anybody start a season worse than this in basically what amounts to the last 30 years of baseball would be the now famous, tragic, I guess more famous, Roy Halladay start in 2000, where he got off to an 11.53 ERA and had to go all the way back down to the lowest level of the minors to rework himself. And then Brian, do we remember Brian Recar?
Yeah.
No, we don't remember him.
Dallas does.
For the 1996 Rockies. Yeah, he threw up a 1091 and wouldn't make that many more starts that season after that. Somehow he would still make a lot more starts in his career, would end with a 5.62 ERA. But those are the only two seasons worse than what Kyle Hendricks did. I mean, he was... We kind of looked under the hood previously on the podcast, and fundamentally, none of those numbers have changed. Like, he's basically just as cooked as it seemed like he was then. And intuitively, it makes sense, though, right? Because when you watch Kyle Hendricks pitch, I think for as brilliant as he was at his peak, there was an understanding that the margin for error was always going to be very thin. And when it went, it was going to go, and it looked like it was teetering before, and he bounced back, getting an enormous amount of swings out of the zone last season. That success has not translated to this season, and I would not be surprised if this is functionally the end of Kyle Hendricks in Major League Baseball.
Wow.
Yeah, as we sit right now, Kyle Hendricks is experiencing the most in-zone contact he's ever experienced, the highest contact rate overall he's ever experienced. It's the highest walk rate he's ever experienced. It's the lowest strikeout rate. It's yeah.
Well, and I think the other piece to add here is that the Cubs aren't necessarily, they don't have to let him pitch through this, I don't think. With the state of their rotation right now that Steele's back, and that it looks like, Javier Assad, despite last night's rough start, I mean, he was going to have a bad start eventually. Sure. Looks like he's a fixture in the rotation, and that Imanaga, as we've covered a lot, is way better than everybody thought. Tyone's been they have four pitchers that they can really, really count on right now. So that it came right now, I don't think is a huge surprise. And, I guess the question is whether he latches on with some sort of minor league deal or some sort of prove it opportunity with a team with less at stake than the 2024 Chicago Cubs. But also shouldn't be overlooked that through it all, one of the true constants for the previous era into this era of Cubs baseball, he's not going to be remembered in the same way that the core guys of the championship team will be remembered. He's not going to be remembered in the same light that the Kerry Wood, even Carlos Zambrano era pitchers are going to be remembered in Chicago. But there was part of what made Kyle Hendricks great is that his effectiveness lasted a lot longer than I think anybody externally or even fans of the team anticipated. So in a sense, it kind of felt like found money, and a really, really great career. He's got a 3.63 ERA and 253 career starts. That's
yeah,
outstanding.
How many people are going to forget that he finished third in the Cy Young?
Yeah.
And
I
think
had a real, led the league in ERA. I think it's best that he didn't win in hindsight, given the seasons that the other people had, but he had a plausible argument at the Cy Young that season.
And the last thing that I'll say about him is every reason why shit went south so quickly should be every reason that you appreciate what he has been able to do over the entirety of his career, because he was doing a balancing act, a juggling act on the edge of a very, very sharp blade. And for the better part of his entire career, he balanced it well. He juggled the balls. He kept them in the air, and he didn't get cut. And at this stage in the game, you have to appreciate and respect what Kyle Hendricks was able to do with stuff that I promise you, if 99% of the league woke up with, they would not leave their house if they knew that they had to go out and compete with his shit. And he has made a living at doing it, and a damn good one. So If it's not the end of the road, which it sounds like, as Jay Hay said, he's taking our man out back and sending him to the fucking glue factory.
Yeah, sorry, it's actually already over. It's he's glue now.
Yeah, that was a steep cliff to fall off of. I mean, he wasn't bad. He was pretty good last year.
Yes,
but it's legitimately like when you're a touch and feel artist, when you're a manipulator like that, that's what happens when you don't, like, your margin for error is already so small. The window that you can pitch in is already so small, and you start to take away stuff. You start to take away life on your repertoire, and it's you're downgrading, and everybody else is leveling up because of the shit that they have to game plan for and get ready for consistently. So your baseline is just very different.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, Council said it's a bullpen role for now. It's not like a shut him down to see if we can right the ship. It's a, take your shit and get in the bullpen situation for right now. So we'll see how that pans out. I feel like it doesn't end well, but if this is the end for Kyle Hendricks, the big league starter, it was a hell of a run. Congratulations to him, even though he probably doesn't want to hear that right now. He probably still wants to get back into that rotation.
Thanks for correcting me on the fact that he's actually still part of the team. I was getting ahead of myself by saying whether he latches on somewhere else. I just don't understand how and I'm happy to be proven wrong. I don't understand how his skill set translates to the bullpen in any sort of effective way. Unless it is we are down 8-0 and you are now pitching.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And,
okay. I mean, great. Well, then that's not a role that's going to stick. They'll give that to somebody with better stuff who's younger and cheaper eventually.
Yes. That's how that goes.
All right.
What's his contract situation?
I think he walks at the end of this year.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a 5-year deal done through 2024.
Yeah.
To the house.
To the house he goes. Yep. 4 years, $55.5 million. They picked up his option for this year for $16 million. Good for Kyle. Last thing I got here, I saw this on the interwebs. The Royals have tied the 1988 then Indians for the most wins through 50 games following a 100-loss season. They're off to their best start in franchise history. Whew. For all the love that we just gave the Royals for no fucking reason because they didn't win the World Series that year. Next year, we're going to celebrate the fuck out of that 10-year reunion team. That's going to be sweet. But for all the love that we gave that 14 and 15 team, and rightfully so for the 15 team, they are off to their best start in franchise history. They're not just a fun little story anymore. The Kansas City Royals are for real, and they are playing better baseball, at least through 50 games, than either of those two World Series attendees from 10 years ago. On the back of Bobby Witt Jr., by the way, 3 for 4, 2 bombs, drove in 6 last night. He's quickly, if he wasn't already a household name, he's about to be this year. The way that people are sucking off the Gunnar Hendersons of the world, like no one's going to be on Shohei level. I understand that, but there is a next tier under Shohei. It's kind of like the top tier within our game. Shohei is someone that even if you've never watched baseball in your life, you've at least heard his name. Like you can walk up to someone in the mall and be like, hey, do you know who Shohei Ohtani is? And they'll be like, yeah, it's the guy that pitches and hits. Bobby Witt Jr., I feel like, is ascending to that top tier within our game stratosphere, at least with the performance so far this year.
Oh, he's there.
I just like that. I feel like the Bobby Witt Jr. conversation, despite the Royals being really good, had quieted a little bit after the first couple of weeks. And we, spent, not just us, but just the as happens, spent time talking about other people. And I'm glad that, for selfish reasons, obviously, but also just for entertainment purposes, I'm glad that Bobby Witt Jr. has reasserted himself back into that conversation last night with that massive game. And then Jared's note about the Royals. I feel like we and the general public were grouping the Royals and Tigers kind of together as hey, these kind of scrappy AL Central teams, look out for them. They're going to be better than anticipated. And I think what the series has shown and the recent play of the Royals has shown is that like that they may actually be two different classes of teams at two different levels of the development stage right now. And it's not the only, it's reductive to say it's the only difference, but the glaring difference between these two teams is that one of them has Bobby Witt Jr. and the other team doesn't.
Yeah.
And
and I think
the Tigers have nobody that's as great as Riley Green or as solid as he is. They have nobody who approaches this level on the position player side.
Also, before we do like a deep dive into Bobby Witt and the Royals themselves, I just want to say, and this is not throwing shade at Julio Rodriguez. It's not. But for Bobby Witt to be doing this in the season after he got paid, I mean, you've heard a lot of guys. One of Dallas's old friends that he played with, Alex Rodriguez, was like, yeah, like when I signed that big contract, I felt the pressure of the world. And that's why I took steroids, but only in Texas, because Texas gave him the money. And then when he went to the Yankees, he stopped using performance enhancing drugs. But he admitted to taking steroids the 3 seasons that he was in Texas because they gave him all this money and he felt the weight of the world to live up to that deal. There's a lot of pressure that comes with a contract like that. And I'm not saying that Julio Rodriguez is feeling the pressure of the contract. I'm sure it's a small contributor, but Bobby Witt Jr. has played in all 50 games for the Kansas City Royals. If it were the end of the season, it's a career high in OPS. It's a career high in slug. It's a career high in on base. It's a career high in batting average. Like the dude is leveling up. They paid him and he's leveled up. And that has to be super exciting to see if you're a Royals fan.
This is why, I mean, dude, how many times have I talked about the two types of dudes in baseball who get paid and what happens?
You're either Pablo Sandoval or you're Bobby Witt Jr. There's fucking no in between.
And Bobby Witt Jr. is Bobby Witt Jr. But that like, and this isn't, we don't need to go down this hole, but that's all part of doing the homework and understanding who the human being is. That's why pedigree matters. When you are the child of a former professional athlete, whether it be male or female, we're taking a look at that individual because of where we think you came from, right? You were potentially raised in this household. There's going to be things that are just non-negotiable that have probably led to a level of obsession when it comes to what it is that you love. And if you're in the business of finding freak athletes, you want the ones who are obsessed. And Bobby Witt Jr. is obsessed with getting better. He's obsessed with being as good as he can possibly be. And in a game built on failure, it is scary for the opponent to be dealing with somebody who readily accepts failure, but is working every single second of every day to close the gap between their successes and failures. And that's who Bobby Witt Jr. is.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot and you can defer or deny or say whatever. Is the implication, I know Jared said no shade. Do you guys not think that Julio Rodriguez is that person? Or do we do we not know? Or is it like,
I don't think that he's like I got paid, so I'm mailing it in guy. Like I think he works his ass off. It's just that he hasn't leveled up the way that Bobby Witt has. I'm not throwing in the towel on Julio Rodriguez. I think that he's perfectly capable of having I don't even want to call it a breakout season because like he's had that, but reaching that next level. Yeah, I think that we will see it. It's just unfortunate that it didn't happen the year directly after he signed that deal, like it's happening with Bobby Witt.
Yeah. Jay, hey, I'll say this. When we were in Seattle, Julio struggling, and I watched him each and every day come out there and set up the cage, set up the turtle. And I watched him with his hitting coaches work on things. Take a swing, look at the iPad. Take a swing, look at the iPad. Have conversations, get in the cage. Bang, 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 bang. And I watched them do this every day. And I think it was the last game of this, excuse me, the last game of the series where he broke out, got a couple hits. I believe he had a couple homers, or might have just been one homer. But either way, you could see in that moment, I could see like the 2 or 3 days of work leading up to that moment. I could see them paying off. And there's just things like that guys just don't do if they are relaxed, if they're comfortable with how things are going. If there was a real palpable sense that he is bothered by not being the J-Rod show. And that's something else that comes along with, I think, the pressure, right? Is Aaron Judge 10 minutes into showing up to New York, they had the fucking judges' chambers. They had people dressed up in judge suits hanging out in right field, right? The pressure comes with being the savior. And that's who Julio Rodriguez is, whether you like it or not, whether he wanted that or not. That's the pressure that comes with being who he is in Seattle, the almost savior type. So when you have the J-Rod show, an entire section geared up to cheer you on, and it's planted right behind you, and you're out there making great plays defensively, but not getting the big hit, not doing all of the superstar things that have frankly been expected of you now, because that's who you are. You're a really good ball player. There's a little bit of pressure that comes along with that, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. But I will not say, and I'm not even close to being ready to say, that he is the type of dude that just rests on his laurels and takes the payday. Not even close.
Yeah, not a super inspiring season so far from J-Rod. 642 OPS. And he's played in all but one game. So, but I mean, he's only 23 years old. I'm not worried about.
No, I'm not worried about him either. But like he's not the only. Like I know Joey said he's not worried. How long does Ronald Acuna have to play like he's playing before we can like be worried a little bit? Like it's fucking May 22nd. It's no longer 3 weeks worth of baseball where some of these guys who are not just star level players, they are tentpole organizational, like centerpiece. And in Acuna's case, an actual reigning MVP who just reset the home run stolen base combination standard for Major League Baseball history. Like these guys are now lingering into 2 full months of pretty bad baseball or well below average baseball compared to what their standard is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably wrong here. I think I'm thinking about somebody else. But was Ronnie, did he miss time early this year?
So it was reported in spring training, right, that he was dealing with a nagging knee issue, correct? So that may be the reason, but like that's still a reason. And that's still like a thing that's holding, like this is a prime level season for Acuna. This isn't like some throwaway campaign where it's like all good. The Braves are built to win right now. And I'm not saying they can't do any of those things. They actually have won without Acuna. We've seen that, but like, I don't know. I'm not trying to do an Acuna bit. It's just like, these are two, like if you made a list of the guys who were, these are the 10 players we're watching this season, or these are the 10 most exciting players in baseball, or these are the 10 most important players to their teams in baseball, Ronald Acuna and Julio Rodriguez both would have made those lists. And, as Jared outlined with Julio, and as everybody knows with Acuna, they're hundreds of points of OPS below their standard.
Well, I was going to say, how many, Acuna, what's he got? 2 bombs? 3 bombs?
2
bombs. Acuna has 2 homers. 2.
And like, I know I do like the Vlad Jr. Billy Butler thing, and we all have a good time with that. But like Vlad Jr., I've put off to like
3.
Stardom is a different thing for him now. Like Ronald Acuna just won the MVP. Julio Rodriguez just had a 30-30 season. Like it's for these struggles to come and I mean 44 games. That's more than 25% of the season.
That's why I'm just curious about the overall health, and whether we talked about it with Joey. We asked Joe, what do you think about him going out and balling out during the winter as well? Like, is there any thought that you might want this dude to just rest a bit and kind of recover? Or are we cool with him going out and playing? I don't know how many games he plays in the winter, 40 games?
Yeah.
More? Like, is that something that you want to see happen? So I feel like that might be a real conversation that's had moving forward if a year like this persists, where they're like, look, dude, you are 26, you're going to be 27 next year. You're no longer the 20-year-old kid flying around the field the way that you're capable of. But if you're going to play at this level, at a sustained level, for a sustained period of time, we have to start thinking about taking care of our body maybe a little differently than we have in the past. We all know how it feels when you wake up and you have your first hangover as a 30-year-old. It feels like you were hit by several trucks and ran over and then parked on and then used as a porta potty. That's what it feels like. So you don't want to get there physically. How do we take care of that? Well, I think it might be time to have those conversations.
Damn. I mean, I'm the one that asked Joe because I watched it and I felt anxiety for him. Like if I were a Braves fan, I would be watching him play all these Winter League games and be like, bro, you just won the MVP. Like, you don't need to do this. Like, I understand. Yeah, it's fun. You like to do it and your hometown fans and all that, but focus on the task at hand. Like, you have a chance at generational all-time greatness. Like, no one's going to look back on your career and be like, yeah, but you remember those games in Venezuela? Those were crazy.
No, but Jared, you want to know who will?
Who?
The entire community when he retires and shuts it down and is back home. Like, the legend of grows, right?
I feel
and
like
just
he's
continues to grow.
He's established that, though. Like, put it this way. If you go to Aruba right now and you wear a Boston hat, they're like, Bogarts. Like, he is a legend. Like, if you just say the name Xander Bogaerts, you say that you're from Boston, if you're in Aruba, they treat you like royalty. He doesn't go back to Aruba. Yeah, he doesn't go back to fucking... Yeah, they treat you like you're Xander's cousin. He doesn't go back to Aruba to play baseball. He's just from there, and they're proud that he's from there. Acuna has proven enough. I know he didn't contribute to it, but he's got the World Series ring. He's got the MVP, and he got the $100 million contract. Like, he could never step foot in Venezuela again and still be a legend there for the rest of his life.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe he's like, you know what? Now that I look back on it, that $100 million deal at this rate, I may have sold myself short. I got to go play winter ball.
Yeah, maybe. That's it for me. That's all I got. Anyone else have anything that they want to add? We good?
Nope. Final thoughts. I think I gave them last time. Abraham Toro and Brent Rooker, the leading hitters in the month of May. That's fucking right. That's absolutely right, Jay. Yeah. Don't you forget about it. I'd also just want to shout out Ross Stripling and Alex Wood, if I could.
Please do.
Have they
get a win
since then?
Jay, you're so caught up in like, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, you're so caught up in like, are they playing? Like,
are they playing? Semantics.
Yeah.
Detailed ass.
Jay?
I have a double Tarek Skubal nug.
Let's go.
Who pitches today? I feel like our cup overfloweth as far as these great pitching nugs. That's the state of offense versus pitching in Major League Baseball right now in 2024. But nevertheless, as these people smash the record books, some Tigers specific context. Skubal has a 1.48 ERA over his last 14 starts going back to the beginning of September of last season. That's the second lowest ERA by a Tigers starting pitcher over any 14-game stretch in the wild card era, behind only Michael Fulmer's magical run from May 27th to August 14th, 2016, where he had a 1.44 ERA. I suspect that the future will be kinder to Tarek Skubal. And then some league-wide context. Skubal, over that 14-start stretch, Skubal, by the way, is 10-0. Skubal is one of 9 pitchers in the wild card era to have a 14-start stretch where he had 10 or more wins, 0 losses, and an ERA of 1.50 or lower, joining the following pitchers: Greg Maddux in 1995, Johan Santana in 2004, Chris Carpenter in 2005. By the way,
do a Carp.
By the way, Santana 04, Carpenter 05, two of the quickly overlooked and not forgotten, but two overlooked great pitching seasons and great peaks of pitchers that we've ever, like Chris Carpenter, I feel like never gets talked about now. Roy Oswalt in 2010, Clayton Kershaw in 2011, Jake Arrieta in 2015, Verlander across both 2017 and the beginning of 2018. That was a stretch where he pitched for both the Tigers and the Astros. And Tony Gonsolin in 2022.
Togo.
He's great.
Yeah, to throw a weird name into the mix. But Scubal's been on an epic run, and while Suárez and Imanaga and those guys deserve our attention, we should not overlook what probably the AL Cy Young favorite has been doing since last season either. Those are my nugs.
You know what name just came to my brain as soon as you said Chris Carpenter, and maybe he doesn't get the love. And this guy, I don't even want to look at his baseball reference page.
Yeah,
I want
you don't
to
be sad.
Well, I don't know if I'll be sad. I don't think I'll be sad.
Okay, I'm interested. Who is it?
I'm not going to be sad. Matt Morris.
Oh.
Like this isn't an overwhelmingly like, oh my God, but I mean like, well, I'm fucking, he's an all-star. But like he was on that staff, and he's a guy who I feel like good pitcher, really good pitcher. But you just don't, I mean, he's not overwhelmingly like, oh my God. I don't know that he was many people's like poster guy, but.
Well, I don't want to do a whole diatribe on this, but like, I feel like he falls into the general era of pitcher, like kind of post big unit, like pre-current era of pitching kind of, where like the strikeouts hadn't fully exploded yet as far as the pitching side goes. So you see these like Cy Young, like near Cy Young campaigns, like Morris, for example, finished third in the Cy Young in 2001, which is a little earlier than what I'm talking about, but like he wasn't even striking out a batter per inning. And it's like, man, like how good was this guy really? And it's like, no, he was good. Don't worry about it. Like,
well, I was going to say, Jay, go look. I mean, I'm not telling you to go look, but like, I'm guessing he's probably got 5 or 6, maybe even 7, 200 inning seasons under his belt.
5.
The year
5 with
how many?
5 with 2 more seasons of 192 or more, but short of 200. So basically 7 seasons of what you're talking about, more or less.
So he was like, that's when like for a guy like him, the 200 inning mark was almost expected / still very like we still very much appreciate the effort. But to your point about him not being that overwhelming strikeout guy, not the overpowering horse, but a guy who could get you through innings, could eat innings. Yeah, I think he was right there. I think it's just, he's always a name that I think about when I think about like a Adam Wainwright and a Chris Carpenter and those, just that pitching staff, Jason Mott, like just grizzly dudes.
You know who else doesn't get just a fucking remember a guy segment here towards the end of the podcast. You know who else doesn't get talked about enough anymore?
The left-hander?
Cliff
Matt
Lee.
Moore? Oh, Cliff Lee.
Cliff Lee was great.
Cliff Lee won a fucking Cy Young and could have won another. Maybe 2 others. Like it's
Jay, that was a dude like the cutter, right? When Mariano had the cutter, whatever.
Yeah. Run it inside.
These dudes would come back. Like hitters would come back and just be like, I can't fucking like it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. It's there and then it's on my fucking wrists.
I mean,
like I don't know. And the frustration, because it was almost one of those cutters that you throw when you play catch and you're like, holy shit, what was that? What was that? How did I do that? Right? You're trying to throw a fucking sinker and you end up cutting the piss out of it and it runs 2.5 feet. Or it cuts 2.5 feet, and you're going, how do I bottle that? And Cliff Lee was like, well, I think I found it out. I think I figured out how to bottle that.
And I kind of understand why he's a little bit overlooked, because like the shape of his career is very strange. Like he wasn't good until 26, and then like he completely fell off, and then 2 years later or 3 years later was like, wait, this guy's a Cy Young candidate again. Like he's actually good again. He was fucking terrible, and then he was like basically a hired gun from there on out. But I don't know. Just he definitely falls into that era. Like even Lincecum, I think, is a victim where you go back and look at his strikeout numbers and you're like, well, that barely stands out in the modern era today, like without the proper context. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Well, like in his era, he was very much leading the league or second in the league or whatever. Anywho.
I have a final thought.
Yeah.
Yesterday, when I was at the Sea Dogs game, Jake and I were on the concourse together. And there was a young woman who had come up to me earlier, was talking to me, and then walked away. And then she came back. And she was like, "Are you Jared Carabas?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I kind of figured that, the way that you had approached me before, that we had established that. And she was like, "I didn't realize it was you because you are much taller in person." And I was like, I get that a lot. And I'm trying to think of in my mind why people think that I'm short. And it's because of Dallas's propaganda that he's been purposing for years, just putting that fake narrative out there. When everyone meets me in person, they're like, "Man, I don't know why Dallas calls you short." And it's like, "Oh, because he's a fucking loser." That's why.
You've been as short as you are your whole life. I'm not propagandizing anything.
You are.
Like you've been this size, however big you are right now, you've been.
But you describe me like these people, they're like, "Oh man, I pictured you being like 5'4" or something." I'm like 5'11". Like I'm almost 6 feet tall.
I'll put all of you in my pocket.
So is now like not the right time to bring up the fact that when I look at that picture of you throwing out the first pitch in Portland with Coley off to the side, like you guys are giving some
6'8", dude.
You guys are giving some serious Robin Big vibes. Like
Coley's
just like fucking.
So it's
Coley's like hugging one of those big stuffed animals in FAO Schwartz.
Yeah.
Coley's like a fucking superstar. Like he's a human being in the superstar outfit, but it's just him too. He's there. That's him. And then there's you.
When we were at my house doing the promo video for Section 10, I was like, "Fuck, now everyone's going to think I'm short again because Cole." Like he makes me look like a midget, but he's just he's a massive human being.
Yeah, he takes up a lot of space. He
takes up a lot of space. Yeah. But I don't know. Jake, you were there. You can confirm that this woman said this?
She said it. Your eyes lit up right away.
Get that on tape. Somebody get that on tape.
Yeah. Yeah,
Clip that, Jake.
She didn't know it was me. She was like, "Yeah, I just pictured you being a little guy, but you're actually the fucking
pushing out this social
beast."
clip of this random lady telling Jared he's taller than she thought he would.
I get it a lot. I do be getting it a lot. And
I doubt you. Are you getting it a lot, or did your eyes light up indicate that maybe this isn't happening all the time?
You know what?
Taller in person. Thank you. Put some respect on my. He's taller in person. Thank you.
Taller in person, baby. Taller in person.
Wow. How low we've gotten.
Yeah.
I guess you've already been there.
Jake, shut up. Jake, say.
Family Feud tomorrow. I know everyone's fired up for that.
Yep.
If you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord if you want to participate. You have about 30 seconds after we drop the survey before it completely fills up.
Oh man. Yeah, and hey, I'm not going to get the credit for it, but I'm more than happy to be the team player. I know Jared has felt left out. He's watched the kid step up to the plate and drop dick twice in a row. He's like, "Look, at the rate we're going here, I'm never going to get to play in this game." So yes, Jared will be batting leadoff tomorrow, and that's just in an effort to let the kids play. That's what I'm here for. Let the kids play. So
I believe that's
hopefully
copyrighted.
Jared can get us off on a
hashtag
on the right foot. Let the kids drip.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'm excited for that. And there hasn't been a guest that year yet this week. So be on the lookout for that.
Ooh. I'll be honest. I have a mild amount of anxiety when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Just a mild.
I'm
the dude who
literally fearless.
I'm the dude who I can hear a great song and I'm like, I don't know who sings that. But then you're like, no, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it be? Of course it's them.
Mm-hmm.
Just not. Yeah.
I'll go easy on you.
No.
Maybe.
Still got to do 2023 with Joey on Monday.
That'd be
Be
very
gentle.
funny. Yeah. Yeah. Where was the All-Star game last year? Fucking LA was 22. Last year
Seattle.
we were in was it? Yeah. Yeah.
Nailed it. See? Unofficial, Jay. Woo!
No, it was good.
Oh.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Wow. I want one day, just one day, to be a fucking silverback gorilla. One day to be a fucking lowland ape.
Why?
Are you serious? Why? The shit you could fucking destroy and wreck and just fucking, bro, you could run full speed. Like, I want to do a 60-yard dash through a fucking forest of bamboo and leave nothing in my fucking trace. Like that, like, do you know how sweet that? I don't know. Just
How much
seems
do
really
they weigh?
fucking 1,000 pounds. Could you imagine fucking with something that could stand erect? That's like 1,200 pounds. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say like a big guy is probably like 600 pounds, right? 700 pounds.
Yeah, this says 430.
Yeah, but I'm talking about being the fucking. I'm talking about being Kong.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be the big. Like, what's it like to be that dude in that world? Like, I've been getting lost in fucking like gorilla compassion videos where they're fucking taking care of small animals and shit, you know. But like some of the females, like the moms, like, bro, you come fucking around with these little baby gorillas and it's on site.
Yeah, I could see the benefit of being a silverback gorilla. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I just don't know what else really on land is like maybe a polar bear.
As far as being that big, that strong, that fast.
Like we're talking speed, like we're talking power speed combo, you know, like a Ronald Acuna, Bobby Witt Jr. Like, who is
Rhinos are pretty fast.
Yeah, but they're pretty one dimensional, you know, like you're going to be, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like you stay away from the business end of a rhino and you got a pretty good shot. Like the armor is what it is, but a gorilla just slap a fucking rear naked choke on a rhino. And then it's fucking over, dude. Oh, he might grab that fucker by the horn and just wing that bitch across the field.
This guy has just wild animals knowing jujitsu, apparently. That's how he see these fights going down. All right.
Just think it'd be cool. That's all.
Yeah, it'd be cool.